Welcome to White Pill Radio, the roughly every other episode version of Theology on Air, where we look at hot news articles and try to do our best to put the Christian worldview onto them. I like to say that this is a post-apologetic, ultimately hopeful, applied theology that does indeed look at these very current events with a hopeful attitude, hence the white pill, not the black pill. You got it? I like to say that this is blessed talk, but not happy talk. So, let's just jump in. This is, of course, Theology on Air, the podcast of Theology by the Pint, which used to be called Theology on Tap. We've lost some of that synergy of the names of our things.
No. You said it so well. We're vibing. We're good.
All right. Anyway,
Theology by the Pint.
Theology by the Pint. Check us out, theologybythepint.com.
And .org. And .net. Dun, dun, dun.
Cool. And
on YouTube.
Give us reviews. We are on YouTube as well. So, find us, subscribe. A week or so ago, we had 666 YouTube subscribers. Thankfully, we've moved past that.
Whoa.
But look, we need to get to 4 digits. Come on, it's a little embarrassing. We got to get to 4 digits. So go find us on YouTube.
Give us a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. You know what's up.
Ring the bell.
Hey, Chad, how you feeling about that?
It's your boy.
I think.
Chad, you got any comments on that? Chat?
I think at 1,000.
Chat.
What is happening?
He's doing the live stream thing.
Chat, smash like if you've enjoyed this episode so far.
What live streamers do is
Scotty's obviously the young one of the group.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about. Okay. Anyway, go to our places. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening. I'm Evan McClanahan. I'm the pastor at First Lutheran. Let's go around the horn. Introduce yourself, crew.
All right. Hey, I'm Sarah Stone, and I'm the executive director for Theology by the Pint.
I'm Scotty Swingler, and I'm the student pastor at Sugarland Baptist Church.
Woo.
I'm Ken, and I'm an accountant.
And he's our resident anarchist, and he's on our board, which is ironic because he helps do all of the money stuff and make sure we follow all the rules, but he's an anarchist.
I'm scared of the government. Kind of comes with the territory.
I think that's wise. Okay, well, let's jump in. And I'm just going to say I'm trying some new tech things tonight, so if it's not perfect, I'll try to fix it in post.
That sounds so fancy.
I know. If only I had a good editor. Anyway, but we're going to try some things, including a video anyway, we'll see how it goes. But let's start with something, rather spicy. This is an article from CBN. I don't even know what that
Christian
is.
Broadcasting Network.
Yeah,
Is that what that is? Okay.
It's TBN's more sane younger brother.
That's what I thought it was, but I'm not sure. So it's definitely not biased, is what I'm trying to say. Cosmopolitan magazine sparks major backlash for promoting satanic abortion rituals. I'll just read a few paragraphs and we can jump in. Cosmopolitan magazine is coming under fire for encouraging its readers to participate in ritualistic satanic abortions. Are there any other kind? The shocking article titled "The Satanic Abortion Clinic That's Pissed Off Pretty Much Everyone and Might Beat the Bands Anyway" applauds the Satanic Temple as a pioneer in expanding access to abortion. The New Mexico-based telehealth practice, a legitimate medical entity run by an accredited clinical team, offers, this is a quote by the way, offers abortion care to patients within state lines, writes the article author Ariel Dom. This marrying of lightning rod concepts is a lot, intentionally so, as the Satanic Temple, TSD, attempts to take pervasive moral panic and flip it on its head, utilizing Satanist reputation for defiance to expand access to urgent health care. Okay, let's take a few steps back.
Yeah.
One thing that has happened since Dobbs is certain states have restricted access to abortion, like Texas. It's a pretty much almost a total ban, except you can take medicine up to 12 weeks, but you have to get a prescription for the pill, and it has to be mailed to you, etc. I happen to believe that not only should that be illegal, but there should be penalties for all involved if they go through that process. But that said, one of the things that's happening is that people then are going out of state to have abortions, and so there's ways that various entities are kind of facilitating that, making it easier. So. With that said, the Satanic Temple has long said that abortion can be part of their ritual. And there are some pretty interesting stories out there about it being used ritualistically. Hard to say if those are urban legends or if that's true. But the Satanic Temple has tried in recent years to be seen as a legitimate religious organization that is afforded, therefore, the same rights as other religious organizations. So can y'all think of the main thing on the thing that they do to try to compete with Christians? Can y'all You know what I'm talking about?
Well, usually what they try to do is like if somebody puts the 10 Commandments on a courthouse, they'll put like a Baphomet statue and be like, hey,
That's the creepy goat.
either they both stay or they both go.
Right.
Right. How serious are you about separation of church and state? I'm usually a fan of their trollery. Like,
Me too.
Unless it comes with like
Ditto. Wow.
killing babies. It's
Half
kind
the
of
group
like,
here is a fan of Satanists. All right.
it's kind of
Well.
on the nose. Like, when you go from like sacrificing children to Baal to like having ritualistic abortion. I don't think it's the forceps abortion. I think it's just mifepristone that this particular satanic.
Yeah. If you're talking about Teledoc, then yeah.
Yeah, mifepristone is the
It's a telehealth
ritual
place, so it has to be that.
Yeah, is the ritual abortions that they're performing.
Right. And they're like, when you take the medicine, you do this song and dance, look in the mirror, da da da. But you didn't get to the part in the article, speaking of their trollery. So we actually did a live event about Satanism, and we had someone from the Satanic Temple come. She was
cool.
lovely.
Yeah.
It was one of our best events, I think. And she explained how they love being rebels, they love causing mischief, and they love taking something and just pushing it all the way, like needling, taking it to the end of its joke or whatever. But one of the things in this article is that they named the clinic or something after the mom of the Supreme Court justice who, because she didn't have an abortion, he then wrote the ruling, the Dobbs ruling. I can't think of his name. But that to me is like, ooh, like it's not a step too far, like it should be illegal to name it that, but it's just so gross. Like it would be like if someone really didn't like Scotty. I almost picked Evan, but Evan has his own people.
Evan's so likable.
But if someone didn't like Scotty and then they named their like YouTube channel like Scotty's mom's name to be like if she'd had an abortion, that is really gross.
The author notes the New Mexico-based clinic will open under the name the Samuel Alito's Mom's
Alito,
Satanic
okay,
Abortion Clinic.
Yeah.
In early February. So yes.
Like I hope she's not alive to hear that. As a mom,
Well, on the other hand, let's put it all out in the open. I mean, my argument when we did have that event, and it was I who kind of responded or whatever to the Satanist, was that there are maybe we put too much emphasis on the brand of Satan, like capital S Satan. Okay, but there are satanic things in opposition to God, adversarial to God.
Well, there's Church of Satan and Satanic Temple. This is particularly the Satanic Temple. They're more trolly atheists.
Yeah.
Church of Satan is like the Antoine LaVey, like they kind of take this stuff seriously. Satanists.
Even they are not theists.
And some of them don't even actually believe in
Most of
a
them.
spiritual reality. But like
that doesn't make it better because that
right.
Because my point was that
that
very dark forces are in rebellion and that there is a way of, I mean, look, I think Christ said it pretty clearly. I mean, you're either with me or against me. I don't know if he said it exactly that word. It's hard to think of on the spot. But there is the godly way, the way that nature is supposed to be, the way the world is supposed to be under God's purview, and there is everything else.
Well, that starts in the Garden of Eden, right? With the seed of the woman and then the seed of Satan, of the serpent.
Right.
And those two are opposition. And you get that language all throughout Scripture. There are two teams.
Yeah.
Two allegiances, two kingdoms.
But why is Satan so cool? Is it just that
I know the answer to this one.
I don't even think they think Satan's cool.
Right.
I think
They think the self is cool.
No.
Cosmopolitan does.
I think they think, and this is coming from an internet troll, I think they think it's really fun to see 60-year-old Baptist women
Yes.
Lose their mind.
protesting, losing their minds.
Correct.
And I think it's a little bit fun too.
If it was just about that kind of thing, just poking the bear, I'd
When
be
it's
with you.
yeah. When they're bringing snakes and having they're protesting.
mass or
Yeah, they're protesting Bible story time at a library. So okay, well, we need to have come meet your Satanist, and then you'll have
I
a
am
bunch
pro 60-year-old evangelical lady. Okay, she's my lady.
She's spirit animal.
Thank you for building up America and making it a great place.
Here's what I think about. I don't think is that they love Satan. They love the archetype of Satan because of all that. On one end, it's playful. On the other end, it goes to extremely
No, I'm not
evil.
talking about Satanists.
I know. Oh wait, you just said
You're saying
what's
they're
the
useful
cool thing about
idiots,
Satan?
right?
Yeah, I don't care what Satanists think.
I know.
I'm asking, why does Cosmopolitan celebrate Satanism?
I think
No, they're celebrating
Cosmopolitanism-
abortion.
I think
Correct.
Cosmopolitan celebrates this in the same way that most Satanists do, which is that they worship the self.
Correct.
Yes.
And what is more selfish than an abortion?
Yeah. So what has changed that they're willing to like celebrate? I mean, they wouldn't have done this 10 years ago, right?
Yes, they would.
They were. Yeah, they were.
They
doing-
who?
Absolutely.
They've been doing this for a while.
Cosmopolitan was.
Absolutely.
Oh, I thought you meant the.
Maybe not as out loud.
I'm talking about
Satanic
Sam
Temple.
Smith dancing as the devil. I'm talking about Cosmopolitan.
All the Satan stuff.
Yes.
Ozzy Osbourne?
Oh.
I'm the Prince of Darkness. Like, you know, I mean,
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
how
there's
long
the
ago was
satanic.
the Satanic Panic now?
I know, that's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
yeah,
It's
the
been
night.
a while.
But it was like a scary thing.
That
And
we
it was
were
fought
scared of
against,
it,
and like
yeah.
we
Well,
went overboard.
Well,
Now
hold
we're
on, hold on.
like-
Who's we? Because like,
Right.
yeah, the young kids
were scared.
The young kids were loving it, and then they're like, you know, like I said, the 6-year-old Baptist grandmother was making them burn their like their Black Sabbath records,
Their Procter
right?
and Gamble logos.
Stranger
Yeah.
Things set in the 80s just did the
Being
Hellfire Club.
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah.
Right.
It's been here for a while.
I disagree. I think
All right.
I think what we're seeing is a mass, like it is filtered down to like mass media where we're seeing pop culture. Frankly, I think they're out of rebellion. That's my answer to like why are they embracing Satanism? I don't think they have
I
anything
agree,
left.
and it has
But they're
always.
out of it like they've run out.
Yeah, like how
Yeah.
far can you take?
Well, I
mean,
agree. It's about
even-
rebellion, and it always has been. Like, what do you think this meant? Like during rock and
I
roll?
love you?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
This.
Ken, I love you too.
These are like devil horns.
Longhorns.
Well, no, that's
You-
That is also
UT.
evil.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Spoken like a true Aggie.
Baylor.
Aggie?
Oh,
Baylor.
Baylor.
Bears.
Sorry.
But like, yeah, this is devil
Baptist
horns, right?
term.
The rock on.
I'm with
It's-
you, Evan, in that
Yeah.
I do think in the last few years there's been a little bit of a resurgence in like the total sellout to satanic things. Whereas before it was like the whole point of the satanic panic was we're worried. And yes, some people were losing their minds. And yes, some kids thought it was funny and hilarious. But I don't think it had the same kind of all out that I'm seeing now. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just turning into a 6-year-old Baptist woman.
Well, how many episodes have we talked about the normalization of crystals, the normalization of New Age, the normalization of Ouija boards, the normalization
Yeah.
of tarot cards? Are those not all connected? I think so.
When did the Ouija board come out? Like
1950 with Milton Bradley or whatever.
That's what I'm saying.
But he's talking about a
But in the
resurgence.
Okay.
80s, there were movies about the horrors of the Ouija board. It was a horror movie thing. Now
in the
it's like
70s,
now
there
it's
was reefer madness. Like we had a moral panic over pretty much everything in this country. And I'm not saying Satan is
that's
good.
the point.
Okay.
We don't have a moral panic about literal Satanism. It's like it's on the grocery store shelf when we go to check out. Like, hey, check this thing out. This is a cool way to get an abortion. The Satanists think it's cool.
I'm not defending Satan or defending abortions. It's a bad
No one
position
thinks
to be
that.
in. I
But
know.
you just said something about the reefer panic, and the whole point is people were upset about it then. It
Well, no,
doesn't seem that
okay,
people are upset
bingo.
now.
Not only were they upset about it, but they were lying about people that they knew their audience already didn't like, right? And I think we need a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Say it slower, nerd. Oh my gosh.
So like, yeah, like the people that you don't like, even
Yeah.
when like they're doing horrible things, like let's not attribute to them motives that they're not attributing to themselves, right? So for the reefer madness, right, they're going to make you go crazy and kill your neighbor with like, machete or whatever. Okay, but that's not true. Just because you don't
Sure.
like them, just because you don't like hippies or
Yeah.
anti-war people.
But do you not see a difference between
Like-
that and what we're talking about today? That there is a difference? Because this actually is evil.
Yes, the content of this is evil. However, like I said, like story time at the library where they bring a snake and they're like, it is evil, but they don't think it's evil because they don't think it's real.
And that was my
They
point.
think
at-
it's-
at-
they
at the
think
event.
it's a troll.
Yeah.
They don't think it's real. They think it's a troll, and they're only doing it to get a reaction out of the other people.
But okay, let's give you that.
A troll's motto is: you're either going to have fun with me, or you're going to be fun for me.
Okay.
And
but
that's-
you don't think that's
yeah.
evil? Even let's say God isn't even real and they're just wanting to mess with people. You don't think there's something
I like messing with people on the internet. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I know. I think, yeah. I think
Not about this,
I
though.
don't. I don't think they're just trolls. I think that's being too charitable. I think there is there is a rebellious spirit, and if there, and that's what I mean. Again, if we depersonalize Satan, right, and we go back to the understanding of the adversary,
Yeah.
right, it is one who resists God, one who refuses to conform to His will, one who refuses to live by his law, etc. That is the heart of Satanism, and that rebellious spirit is fundamentally evil.
Specifically about this, I agree. You and I think they are rebelling against God with
Yeah.
the abortion thing. But that's attributing a motive to them that they don't attribute to themselves, right? This would be a secular, non-satanic
Yes, it
abortion
is.
as well.
And I'm right.
You and I would say the non-satanic abortion is rebelling against God.
right? But I'm
Even though they don't. So who do they think they're rebelling against? They think they're rebelling against the morally uptight.
The evangelicalist.
Correct.
Exactly. They don't think they're rebelling against God because
Yeah.
they don't think God's real. The person having an abortion that is just having an abortion that doesn't have any satanic motives attached to it thinks they're rebelling against what? Well, I don't even know they think they're rebelling, but you and I both think. Yeah.
Honestly, I think you have bought into their propaganda. Like you have bought into their way of thinking.
Why'd you
to,
take
like,
them at their word?
Well, but should you?
Even though I think
Yes.
they're being evil. I think they're being evil with the abortion stuff,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I mean, but I'm going to judge them by my worldview, right? Like I'm going to judge them. I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say, yeah, I understand what they're saying. And, but you know, it's still wrong.
So Norwegian death metal that has like all of the grand Odin, you know what I mean? Like Odin and Thor and, you know,
I haven't listened to death metal from Norway in a while, but
it's a bunch of Nordic imagery
Yeah,
with
yeah.
like Norse gods, right?
Yeah.
Which if you take Paul in Romans, he thinks they're demons, right? Even though the Norwegian death metal people don't actually think they're praising Odin, don't actually think they're praising Thor. But like, since we think there are real spiritual forces behind all of these different geographic entities, whether they be the gods of Egypt or the Norse mythology or the pantheon. So why do we give them a pass and not?
I don't know that we would give them a pass.
Yeah.
Because we think that's playful fun.
We think
Well,
what's playful fun?
Like,
Screamo music and stuff?
oh, dang.
Or, I mean,
I grew up on Tooth and Nail. Like,
Yes, sir. I'm still listening to Under Oath, man.
yo, I saw them in concert like 3 years
okay,
ago.
this
Four
is
times.
so
Four
cute.
times.
okay. Let me. I know we need to move on to other articles, but let me just try to ask then. I mean, do you think it's just kind of like relatively harmless that the Satanic Temple is trying to figure out funny ways to get into after-school programs, or provide for abortions, or like, is it? I don't know, because like they're trolling stuck-up evangelicals, or like, do you think society
basically, I
needs that
think
kind of
I want to
rebellious
look at
spirit?
the thing that they're doing. Right? Is
Yeah.
Planned Parenthood more evil than the Satanic Temple? Like, well, clearly, right? It's
Why?
What? Why are they more
scope and scale? Right?
Okay, so just a numbers game. They
I
kill
mean-
more people.
And they have one explicit purpose rather than the Satanic Temple, which you even read their explicit purpose, which is just to push the boundary, right?
Well,
yeah, but it's
interesting.
like leading to actual people dying.
So is Planned Parenthood, is what I'm saying.
And
Yeah.
Planned
That's why I would
Parenthood-
put them in the same.
me too.
bucket.
And this was
But-
my point at the event, that
Yeah.
Planned Parenthood is satanic. So
Right.
you don't need to have a trademark capital S satanic name
Right.
attached to you to do utter evil. And as Christians, we need to be calling these things what they are.
Hey guys, Sarah here. Sorry to interrupt what I'm sure is an amazing podcast episode, but I just wanted to tell you that Theology by the Pint is growing. We are now a 501c3 nonprofit organization and we're expanding. This coming year, with your help, we'll grow our reach by adding events in multiple Houston suburbs, as well as launch a youth version. Don't worry, those will be pints of iced coffee, not beer. We're adding follow-up conversations to reach the spiritually curious and the unchurched. We're also growing our connections and partnerships with more local churches, and you can help us grow by praying for us, by telling your friends or church about us, and of course, by partnering with us financially. To donate, go to theologybythepint.org/give. If each of our podcast listeners gave $100, we would reach our annual budget right then. Consider donating today. Okay, enjoy the rest of the show.
And so when you have these mass media campaigns of Hollywood ushering in Satanism every single day, Doja Cat and Sam Smith and all these weirdos, and in 1,000 other ways, where like Satanism is just Megan Thee Stallion, does satanic stuff. The Kardashians do satanic stuff. I mean, openly satanic, like openly demonic stuff. And we just sort of accept it. I am that stuck-up, middle-aged, evangelical that's like, not in my backyard. And I'm not talking about the cell phone tower. I'm talking about the Satanism,
yeah.
So it bothers me.
I mean,
Screw them. This is my country. I don't want Satanists in it.
The country thing is a little funny because it should, but I'm with you until the country part.
Okay.
Because it should just be where your spiritual allegiance is.
and one of the biggest things, like I said,
This is my
libraries and county courthouses, like the church and state, one of the reasons why I'm a tiny bit sympathetic to them, again, playing devil's advocate, one of the reasons why I'm a tiny bit sympathetic to them is because like ever since like 300 AD, like church and state have never been like unseparated. And I kind of think like Christendom is best when like it is outside of the power dynamic rather than when it's like on top of the power dynamic. And I think kind of ceases to be Christendom.
Let me
Yeah.
let me provide a compromise in this argument or this conversation. It's been fun. Okay, what if we put things up to vote? You know, like say the Satanists want to remove the 10 Commandments and put Baphomet in, or put Baphomet in addition to the Christmas tree in the town square or something like that. What if we made it a democratic vote? Because what happens is city councils are like, oh, we're afraid of being sued, right? So they're like, we just have to let the Baphomet go there and everything gets screwed up, you know? So that's what I would say. I'm like, you know what? Maybe the First Amendment protects their right to put a Baphomet somewhere. Well, or maybe we have the right to vote on it.
Well, you'd rather just not have a like nativity scene at the courthouse. You'd rather not have the 10 Commandments at the courthouse, right?
No, I would rather have those things.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to have a basis for law.
So what is your thought about the voting on it?
I think democracy is... You know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say.
No, I don't. I'm not 100%, sir.
2 wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of democracy. I'm a huge fan of like...
You heard it here first.
I'm a huge fan of individual rights. So then I counter with, well, what if your neighbor puts one up, right? You have a nativity scene. They have that, you know, that weird little snake thing that they do every Christmas.
Yeah.
Then what?
Your neighbor puts
on their
property?
yard.
No, that's fine.
So, I mean, what we're arguing about is... I have
to live with it.
Yeah, we're arguing doing the state property.
I'd be doing the Clark Griswold thing of like, all right, I need more angels this year.
More angels, you know? Exactly. Exactly. And what we're arguing about is state property.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, to be resolved. Anyway, don't read Cosmopolitan magazine.
And put more angels in your yard. That was my takeaway.
But again, don't read Cosmo magazine.
Cosmo was Satanist before they started talking about Satan.
Like,
boom.
Right. Okay, let's talk about something more cheery, I think, which is eternal life in the AI metaverse.
Ooh, yeah.
What you got?
Amazon Prime did a
show
about that. Anyway.
Upload?
Yeah.
I have watched some of that.
It was kind of stupid.
It's pretty good, but it tails off. Okay.
Yeah, so this was in my suggested news from Google. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful robot, ? If you haven't heard of the Calm app, it's a very popular app to help people mostly go to sleep. It's meditative, different options there. They have several celebrities who can read you bedtime stories as sort of part of this. If it helps you fall asleep. And they have used AI to bring back Jimmy Stewart as one of their celebrity readers. Jimmy Stewart, of course, has been... Oh, where did this go? Yeah, 1997 is when Jimmy Stewart passed away. So he has not been with us for a very long time.
But maybe he's here with us tonight. Do we have anyone here that could impersonate Jimmy Stewart?
No.
You're not going to do it? Before we started recording.
And if you are curious, I would recommend you do this. This is a Variety article that was recommended to me. I'm sure you could find this several places, but I listened to a clip of the AI voice doing, and it's uncanny. I mean, it's very, very good. I mean, I've heard several AI impressions where even what like Disney's doing in some of their films with. I'm a Star Wars geek, so even the Mark Hamill AI in Star Wars, I can tell it's an AI. Like the Jimmy Stewart one's pretty good.
Yeah,
you could fool me. And this is just going to keep happening. By the way, like this is his estate, his family gave permission for this to happen. So. Obviously he did not, but his family has given that. And so, you know, I think this raises real ethical questions for us. And I'd just be curious what you think. I don't have a super strong opinion, just to be honest. I'm still thinking through how I feel about this, but as Christians, who I think want to honor those who've passed away, but we also see death as a doorway into eternity with God, not as an endpoint. We do not see life on earth as ultimate or best, right? So the idea of keeping, there's something about, in my opinion, the voice or even like the image of someone, there's an Imago Dei component there that I'm kind of curious about. Like, are we violating the image of God by artificially recreating someone's manner of speaking and voice? You know, I have so many questions about this ethically because it is going to keep happening.
Yeah.
And so what happens when...
It's not always going to be bedtime stories.
Right. And so what happens when... And I could see someone taking advantage of this. What happens when a Christian develops a AI Billy Graham who can deliver Billy Graham sounding sermons written by a Chat GPT program.
Have y'all done that? Written like sermons in Chat GPT? It's pretty cool.
It's unbelievable.
It's fun.
I don't use it for my real sermons, but I've typed all sorts of stuff in there just to see what it'll spit out, right? And it's
really
fascinating.
Fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm rambling a little too much, but what do we think? Bringing back people from the dead in this way, and or carrying on someone's artistic expression long after their death.
I know I'm going to be the minority in this one.
Come on, man. I'm curious.
I don't have a super strong opinion, and my first opinion isn't as a Christian. It's not a worldview thing. It's just as a person, as a mom, as a Sarah Stone. Like, I don't want anyone using my likeness of any kind after I'm dead because it's not me.
And now it's on the record. So
That's a
won't.
verbal binding agreement. Legal. Because I joked it starts as, I'm sure if Jimmy Stewart were here, he might think it's kind of cool that he's reading this lovely story to help people rest. Oh, that's nice. But it could very easily be something else, and it will be, and it already is. I mean, they're already using deep fakes for crime.
Well, copyright, right? I mean, what happens when you make Winnie the Pooh blood and honey?
Right.
Did y'all see that?
Yes.
No, but
Yes.
it sounds like something you're going to tell us.
The copyright expired on, because patent law is like life of the author plus, a decade or two.
Yeah.
And then like Winnie the Pooh just came up. Like
Public domain.
In the past 2 years, came up in public domain. So now there is a slasher film called Pooh, Blood and Honey, where, Pooh in the classic red shirt.
Sad.
Yeah, so exactly. So in the same
More
way.
trolls.
Yeah.
In the same way that like, are you using somebody's voice box and vocal patterns to do something that would be out of character for them? I'm not really a fan of like.
Honestly, it just seems rude to me. Like, it's not so much like, well, it's anti-Christian. It just seems like not nice.
Well, I think there's something about like that we need the best of everything. Like the best would be Jimmy Stewart reading. By the way, It's a Wonderful Life was only popular because its copyright had run out and it became free to publicize like on Christmas all those years, like on network TV.
I didn't know that.
So it all comes around. But it's like, for example, we're going to London next couple months from now, and my dad was like, "Oh, you have to go to the ABBA show. Like they have a hologram show where like it's like ABBA in their prime, and it's like 1,000 speakers and like holograms, and it's like they look like they're on stage. It's like the most amazing thing, and like I really want to go, but I can't go, so you go." And I'm like, it sounds really amazing and cool, but I'm like, but it's not real, So it's like, I wonder if it would ever compare to that time I saw Frank Black in Baton Rouge, and I was like 5 seats back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was cool. But it's like, it wasn't the best of everything, but it was like a dude I like, and it was cool. Yeah. So, and I don't know. Sometimes it's like the best gets old. And that's my concern with like this fake technology. Like we can have the best, like we can have the most beautiful influencer. Like there are fake influencers in TikTok right now.
Yeah. Big
right?
time. Yeah.
So it's like they go to fake islands and they show their fake meals. And I'm like, how does that not get old after about, I don't know, a day? Do people get tired of it?
Well,
I don't
it
know.
exists on a spectrum, right? Your favorite arena performer is probably doing a little bit of media magic with like auto-tune and like they're definitely wearing makeup. Whereas, the person...
How do you know who my favorite arena performer is?
Well, what I'm saying is like
One's
a
favorite.
80-person show that you go in and see, like, no, they're in the same clothes they wore like for 3 nights in a row on the tour bus.
Yeah.
They're not...
Yeah.
they're not...
Yeah.
That is interesting because you're talking about like authenticity, and every step
Bingo.
away from authenticity, we
It's
lose
a spectrum,
something.
right?
Right.
And the far end of the spectrum is AI everything inside a virtual headset.
So we're talking about artistic expression, which is important. But I am almost asking the question also.
Yeah.
How do we look at
After
death?
death. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And so, it's one. I'm still determining. I think my own like opinion on all of this. I'm not sold either way. It's one thing, I think, if me, full knowing what this can do, signs something before I die, that
Jimmy Stewart never,
right?
like,
but,
never could
yeah,
have
but
done.
Jimmy
Couldn't
Stewart
have.
again. If it's a Christian trying to resurrect Billy Graham at some point, like
I think you got to take the good with the bad. You got to find like the few speeches of C.S. Lewis that we have, and then get him to read Mere Christianity in his own voice.
It's very few though.
That it's so few.
Yeah.
But like as AI gets better and better, the sound sample size that you need,
Yeah.
like you don't need as many. So you get C.S. Lewis reading Mere Christianity to you, which is coming in like 5 years, I hope, which would be awesome
That'd be
in his
great.
own
Wouldn't that be
voice.
awesome, though?
However,
Like,
you
go
got to
ahead.
take the good with the bad, and I'm okay with all of it, come what may.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't think I am. Even as you were talking about the Billy Graham thing, I don't like that. Like we had, I'm blanking on his name now. We're Facebook friends, and it was a guy we had on our podcast a couple years ago. He's written various books, apologetics books. One of them was about how we all have these basically like legacy makers. We all have these immortality projects is what he called them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And some of them are while you're alive, they're things like eating healthy and working out because you want to live as long as possible. But some of them are extending your legacy. So maybe you write a book, maybe you have a podcast, maybe you do something enduring. And then of course he always asks his students, like, can any of you name your great great grandparent? And it's like one person can, because no matter what you do, unless you're C.S. Lewis or Jimmy Stewart or something, it's probably not going to be remembered. But isn't that on us to, like, we build that out here. When we die, whatever we've put in the world is left, and then leave it the heck alone is what I say. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know that I would want to read or hear C.S. Lewis read Mere Christianity because I would know it wasn't him. And he didn't do that. He could have gone on the radio and read that.
Well,
He read some. I mean,
He's
said
got
many things on the
those
radio.
actually are radio addresses.
That's what I thought.
Right,
but they were lost to history.
But my point
Yes,
is,
yes.
if he wanted, I guess the further back we go, we can't say, well, if they wanted it, they could have, because
Yeah.
not everybody could have read something into a recorder. But
No,
I'm just on the record. I don't like it.
Yeah,
Some just feels
I say
icky.
let sleeping dogs lie, and I think it's an authenticity thing. I mean, this is already an issue with the proliferation of non-AI digital media, right? So, like as preachers, like I'm in a sense competing with a lot of great preachers who wouldn't have been available until 30 years ago,
Right. Right.
Like any of my parishioners could listen to
Tim Keller.
Jim Kell. Is he a great preacher?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
John MacArthur.
Shut
Wait, what? Or is that about Tim Keller?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's a good order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's debate if Tim Keller is a good preacher
One of the
right
best.
now.
You're gonna be One of the best.
It's going to
Okay.
be 3-1 here.
He has
friend.
charisma. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Anyway. Oh, it's just a question. Jeez. Anyway, whatever. The point is that it's like, but I'm with these people, or any pastor is with their people. What is the value of that? Like he's there, he's present, he's physically. Is there a
I
value in that?
listen to a podcast for like probably a 100, 200 person church in like Vancouver or somewhere in Washington. Do you know Showbread?
Yeah.
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 Josh Porter of Showbread pastors a church, and he is theologically, of course, he's a Christian anarchist, but like he is theologically amazing.
I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
great to know.
Yeah, and his church is tiny, and I listen to it every
See,
week.
and I listened to the Bad Christian podcast forever because that's the Emery guys.
Dude, poor Joey.
I'm loving this
What
bromance.
happened
Can
to
I just
Joey?
say?
We need to.
Yeah, we'll catch up after
Oh.
this.
This
Off
is the
the
first
air.
time Ken and I have met.
Yes.
And I think we're going to be friends.
Yeah.
That's adorable. I don't know where to go from
But
there.
I'm a benefit of what you're just talking about, right?
Yeah.
I love that I can listen to something on the
No,
other side.
I agree, and
yeah.
I listen to lots of other preachers as well. But at the end of the day, my concern is that people will be like, and maybe this explains a precipitous decline in church participation. Is it's on YouTube,
No, for
it's
sure.
on podcasts.
For
Like
sure.
I don't need the guy in my neighborhood. To,
So to me, it's like education. Education, right? For those that want it, we have so much you can learn, right? There are so many people that are better than your average seminary student and pastor just because they read a lot and it's free and available, right? I don't think that's a bad thing. However, the average is probably getting pushed down. Something like education.
Yes.
Kids are getting so much, like, not only dumber, but like worse.
yeah.
Like
Correct.
behavioral issues in school are
Yeah.
terrible these days. However, the kids that want to learn, they have so
Thriving.
many more resources
Yeah.
than they've ever had
Yeah.
before. Kind of view what you're talking about the same way.
Yeah.
We're losing the educational middle class. Is that what you're saying?
We really are. And the theological middle class too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Right.
So no to Jimmy Stewart.
I say no.
I
Thumbs
think
up,
it's a
thumbs down.
vocal
Yay or
cord
nay?
and
Oh no.
Thumbs down, thumbs down. What are you?
Don't let the government do anything.
I don't know if the government owns the car.
There ought to be a
now.
law.
I think
I'm
like,
Oh my
I,
god.
I think the best thing we said was you take good and you get bad with it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of, because when I think of access to information, right, like everything you've said about education is true, but every time I think of how blessed I am that I can Google the answer to almost anything I need to know,
True.
I also think, okay, and how much has internet pornography
Yeah.
destroyed
Right.
generations of
Right.
Yeah.
men? I mean, and so We are in Pandora's box.
Media too,
friends.
media literacy. Right, we have so much more disinformation, but it's never been easier to actually disprove the war machine. Right, the military-industrial complex had 3 broadcasts that they could tell you whatever they wanted to. Right, and now it's easier than ever to disprove them. You just
it was almost like the media. It was like a mockingbird. Like it would just repeat
Operation
whatever they.
Mockingbird.
Oh, you guys are cute.
Well, I saw this romance advancing, and I felt like
You
I
had
need
to keep your tether to Ken.
ladies, you can only
Form
defend
a line. Jeez. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I do have a white pill, which is I actually think a lot of this AI stuff is going to flame out. I don't know how. I just think it's just not going to come to fruition. I think there's so much invested. I mean, like OpenAI is worth like $80 billion. That is insane. I don't know. Maybe the large language models and maybe it will, but at the end of the day, it's a derivative. And I think there will be
really good at Microsoft Excel.
Oh my gosh, Ken.
It's really good at spreadsheets.
Well, I mean, it may be great at spreadsheets. It may be good at writing code and things like that. It might even be decent at creating derivative art in some way. But I have a feeling that it'll be cool for a while. But at the end of the day, we're going to want like real actors again. Like we're going to want like a real person.
I agree. With you.
It's like Star Wars does. And in fact, I read an article recently. It's quite interesting. It was like, why has CGI gotten worse? And it's true.
It
like
has.
CGI is like in many. Maybe it's because it's so ubiquitous. There's just not enough people to do it. But like you look at what they did with Gollum. Okay.
Right.
Like it's incredible, and it still hasn't been topped. Like 20 years later.
Correct. Correct.
So there is like this declining.
That's kind of what you were saying.
Well, and going back to Star Wars, most people are now demanding they just recast the legacy characters because the de-aging AI isn't working for most people.
Yeah,
and they did that.
I think it depends on how you do it, because like Gollum and Caesar from Planet of the Apes and Snoke, right? That's all Andy Serkis.
Yeah, and
the team that he has around him working with him
is the best in the world.
They've nailed it.
Yeah,
right. And he's learned how to use that software.
That's Weta, right?
Yeah,
the same studio that does Avatar.
You wear the suit with the dots.
But it's the same digital studio that does Avatar, which is the only CGI that's gotten better in the last 20 years. Is what James Cameron's doing with it's Weta Studios does.
But even like look at meta Star Wars, then we'll look at the next juicy topic. But
I was gonna say we're
like
all over the place.
Okay, like let's say you have the first 3 Star Wars, right? 4, 5, 6, and it's like technologically groundbreaking, and Lucasfilm and blah blah blah, and Skywalker Ranch and all that kind of stuff. It's like, wow, amazing digital advance, or not digital, just advances in movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Lucas makes episodes 1, 2, 3, and we're like, is this a cartoon? This looks horrible. This is such trash, And then so Abrams for 7, 8, 9, he's like, we're going back to models, and so we'll do some CGI stuff, but we're going to do a lot of models, and so it's kind of interesting that it's like people want the real thing to a
retro.
So I don't know. So I'm kind of like. They can pull Jimmy Stewart out of the grave, but at the end of the day, I think it'll get old.
My white pill is going to be going back to something I said at the very top. I think I'm a big Imago Dei guy, and I was talking to somebody recently about music, because AI writes music now. Publishes music and
really well.
Some of it's trash, but
so most of human creation is trash.
But what I ultimately said to this friend, and this friend is not a believer, but what I said to this friend is I said, from my worldview, there's something about music that enlightens your soul in a way other things don't.
Yeah.
And there's something in the human experience that I know another soul produced that art that is now, invigorating my own soul
to soul kind of
like you were saying, like there's something in the back of my brain. It's like, I know that's not Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Even if it sounds very pleasant.
I almost cried about a CGI raccoon in like Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's so true.
Like your soul. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
But a human soul wrote and directed and created that film, right?
But it wasn't a puppet. It wasn't practical effects. It was
On the other hand, we'll have to talk about Yoda in episodes like 1 and 2 of Star Wars, right? Like,
do y'all want me to leave and you can just
episode
talk
2
about
wasn't that bad, and
we can do a Star Wars episode.
I want to hear.
I'll take a night off.
I want to hear about like Whiteness.
You
Oh
do?
my goodness.
You want to hear about whiteness? Cool. Okay, so for the next portion of our White Pill Radio, we're going to do something a little different. Instead of talking about an article, we're going to talk about how we talked about an article. It's going to be super meta. It's like the movie Inception. If you've never seen it, you should go see it.
Oh, that's a great movie.
So when we get ready to do these episodes, we get a text thread going with whoever's going to be here. We put some articles in there. We talk about what we're going to talk about. And today, yesterday and today, I submitted a couple. One was a Twitter something about Ibram X. Kendi, who had made some statements that got people in a tussle about whiteness. And then there was another article about Ohio State forcing their students to go through basically like DEI kind of deal where they're supposed to denounce their whiteness, their straightness, their ableness. And there's a line in there that I really didn't like, and I wanted to talk about it. But as we were discussing this, Scotty said, I don't know if this is the best idea for us to have a conversation about constructions of whiteness when we are four white people sitting in, we don't have a person of color or more here in the mix. I pushed back a little bit. He pushed back a little bit. Evan jumped in, got feisty. Ken wasn't part of that conversation just yet. But as we were having the conversation, I thought, I think people would find this conversation interesting. So I thought we'd just have a little bit of it here. So I'll say what my contention was, and then I want you to kind of say your thoughts on it. But my thought is, if you have somebody or somebody's saying, like if we were to reverse this whole thing, if there was a white version of Ibram X. Kendi, John Smith, and he was going around telling college campuses that Black students, oh my gosh, can you imagine if someone took what I'm about to say and made a short of it? That Black students can't really participate in humanity in the same way.
That's literally what Ibram X. Kendi is saying about Black students, though.
Correct.
About
He's
Black
saying,
students?
Yes. That white and Black students don't participate in humanity the same way. Right.
But
Yeah.
the comments that he
we don't
made
we don't need to flip the races. He's already saying that.
We do for
Yeah.
what I'm saying, because if someone were to come along and say Black people can't really participate in humanity, was the phrase he used, because they can't connect with community in the same way because of their Blackness. If that were said by a white person, and then we heard of a podcast where there were like 3 or 4 Black people getting together and talking about how absurd that is, would that be wrong? I don't think it would. I think they'd be well within the rights to be like, this is crap. So you think differently.
So
Tell us.
So let me start by saying I didn't say it would be wrong.
No, he didn't. It was
of us-
super gracious.
of us to gather and have that discussion. I said my preference would be that we all have friends who are Black and they would make great conversation partners in this.
Yeah.
So a couple things, and I'm going to try to be brief. One, I come at all of these things as like I see Jesus and the church as being the solution to division always. I think Jesus sets a very wide table to bring unity in anywhere society says there's division. Jesus Christ and the church specifically are called to say we can come together
Amen.
under one Lord and be unified. And so if we in this space can demonstrate that when we talk about culturally hot button issues, that's my vote. Like that's just my preference. I would prefer that we had a friend who could represent the other side, if you will, of that cultural divide here. That's just my preference in general. But secondly, and to this specific issue, right? And I was sitting with a mutual friend of ours who is in a interracial marriage who agreed with me on this. When it comes to white privilege, it is real. And so like look at any statistic about what it's like to be white versus what it's like to be Black in America, whether it's education, poverty, home ownership, right? Like the repercussions of centuries of slavery still exist. And so there's a segment of white people who deny that those repercussions still exist. And I would be very uncomfortable if we set in and said, because I learned in seminary and I learned in just my friendships throughout life. I mean, I've had just invaluable conversations with my Black friends of saying, like, you don't even realize some of the things you say, some of the mannerisms, some of the way you speak about these issues that is extremely triggering, harmful, and in grace, in a godly sense, those people would often say, I know that's not even intentional.
Yeah.
But there are still things to navigate in this whiteness conversation.
And I think the neutral position would be to ask you, your opinion, are they always right? When they say you're out of pocket, right? If they say you're out of pocket for saying that,
When who says that?
are they right 100% of the time?
Friends of color. Is that what you mean?
Because are you invited to the cookout? invited to the cookout? Man, you guys are white. Holy crap. Okay.
Ken is also white. We
I
do
am.
not get the reference. What's the reference?
Oh, it's the white person that can hang in black circles or be invited to the cookout,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
So
We're not as
like,
cool as you are. So yeah.
It's but anyways, like treating the black experience as though it's one thing is
And it's not what I'm trying to do either.
ridiculous. But no,
Right.
but to say like they had different experiences than you had. Okay, they may aggregate on like a bell curve, but like within that eclectic, diverse community of like our black brothers and sisters in Christ, and even the ones that aren't in Christ, they all have different experiences, and they're all going to tell you. Some of them may say that this other person that told you were out of pocket,
Was out
that
of
they're
pocket.
ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
So if we had
Exactly.
Abraham X Kendi in this room with Candace Owens,
Ibram X. Kendi.
and that was it.
You added
That's
a
not
ham.
what you
You said Abraham.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We just did a thing on
Yeah.
Allah and Muslim
Yeah,
theology.
that-
so.
That's what it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But if we had him here,
Well, I think I mean, first of all, okay, when he talks, and this is one thing I said in our thread, like when he talks about whiteness, he's not 100% talking about white people only, and we see that now with like the Israel stuff going on, right? Because like all of a sudden,
are Jews white?
are exactly. So it's about oppressed oppressor, and it's that whole dynamic. So basically, but
If you have money, you're white.
But that said, what he says is, I don't know how it's in any way defensible. I don't know how these concepts are in any way defensible because he is speaking of whiteness as though it is the vermin of society. Okay, whiteness is
Evil.
the disgusting thing that must be eliminated.
And I care why.
What do you care what he has to say?
Well, and so-
Well,
well,
it's
but that's part of why I brought this up too, Sarah.
Yeah,
and
like,
I
it's
use the
Ibram
word
X. Kendi.
defensive of like, why do the four of us need to discuss that?
I actually don't feel defensive about it because I'm a grown woman and I don't really care what Ibram X. Kendi says about me. I care when I paired it with the Ohio State thing. When I think about how students, including my own kids, when they've gone to public school, are getting this message that there's something wrong with them because they're white.
Mhm.
Which again, if we flip that, if we went back, a couple hundred years,
So the problem
we
is
all
public
look at what was-
schooling.
well, maybe.
Like,
and we can talk, and we've talked about that here
Yeah.
too. My problem is when the zeitgeist message is whiteness is bad, and it's not about your behavior, it's not about your character, it's not about your worldview. It's about the fact that your skin is a certain color, which is just so ironic because the whole problem to begin with is that we ought not look down on anyone because of their skin color.
take your kids out of that school. Yeah. Like,
Well, okay,
I mean,
but I'm a single mom, and it's not that easy.
sure.
So, and I know I sound defensive, but that's real talk. Like, talk about privilege. There's one way in which I don't have nearly the privilege some might think I do because I'm doing this on my own. So I kind of have to be in the situation I am. And so when my kids come home with essays about how their construction of whiteness.
Have they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
It's like reading comprehension. I'm putting that in
Okay.
quotes, where the essay they're supposed to reflect on for the reading comprehension is like a passage from Peggy, whatever her name is, or the backpack lady, or the lady that wrote White Fragility or some business like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuff, that message does come through. And I hear my kids almost start to sort of regurgitate it back because they feel sort of guilty. And that breaks my heart. What if my kids were black and they feel guilty for being black? Everyone's heart would break about that.
I'm going to loop back to Satanism because what I think is going to happen in about 20 years is that a bunch of kids that are raised in this like cultural milieu are going to, just like the Satanists that were raised inside of that Methodist or Baptist house, they're going to start pendulum swinging in the other direction.
I don't want the pendulum
and start
anywhere on
having-
the ends.
And start having like race abolitionist takes, like race isn't even real. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the
but
ones-
see, I'm the
yeah.
person, I don't want, like, the other night, a black friend of mine was like, people need to stop saying they're colorblind. It's stupid. No one's colorblind. I mean, no one is. You don't look at someone and you're like, I don't even know what you are. But just to say, like, there are so many colors that God has made us in, and we all carry his image. And so stop telling any one of those that their color is bad. That's all, my whole point. And so to say that we can't have that conversation, or we ought not, or maybe it'd be less wise.
I think it's a stronger testimony when you
that's where that was compelling.
when you represent what you want to be, rather than, again, why do four white people need to get in a room and discuss what was?
Well, why
Yeah.
did Robin DiAngelo write White Fragility? She's white, Like, honestly,
well,
the
well,
loudest voices in the room are the Ibrahim's ex Kendi, the Nicole's Hannah Jones,
Yeah.
the who is it?
I don't think
the,
it's a
the
small
Nick's
thing, though.
Canon, right?
This
Nick
is
Cannon thought that
Yeah, I know.
melanin gives you an empathy
special
gene.
powers.
This is
Right,
not a small
yeah.
thing, though. I feel like you're kind of blowing this off. This is a norm for
Academia.
most.
Mm.
Oh, academia, where
Yeah,
like
yeah.
most young people are, being influenced, which like filters down to every single public school in America. This is
So
the
we're gonna
normal
have a
stuff that
bunch
they're
of
learning.
based plumbers and a bunch of based electricians and a bunch of based welders.
How are they going to be based? They're going to be hating themselves because they're white.
They don't go to college. They go to a
Oh,
trade
because
school and
they're
get
white.
out in
I'm
18
saying it-
months.
I'm saying it
yeah,
fil- I'm
we
saying
have
it
welders,
filters down-
electricians, and that are going to have more.
Do
like-
teachers go to college?
It's a pyramid scheme.
Do
Yes,
public
yes,
school teachers go to college?
You're teaching people how to teach people how to teach people how to
Okay.
teach people. It's a pyramid scheme. It'll fall apart.
Well, I'm just trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Do teachers go to college?
Yes.
they do.
Yes. Do they learn this crap at college?
Yes, they do.
Do they teach high schoolers this and
Yes.
middle
Yes, they do.
schoolers this? And thank you. Okay,
And
that's
I
my point.
think the same way that these people are rebelling against that the Satanists are rebelling against their evangelical Christian teachers
Let me ask
that
you
they
a
had.
question. Okay,
we're going to have a bunch of.
All right. Who
Okay,
knows what's going to
maybe.
happen? Let me ask. Should 4 Jews have gotten together when Nazis were calling Jewish people vermin?
You're saying no,
Or should they have
no,
included
you're saying
a Nazi in the
should Bonhoeffer
No,
and
no,
four
no, no,
Germans
no,
gotten
no, no.
together?
Well, just let me say.
I asked my question the way I asked it.
Okay.
Should 4 Jews have gotten together, or should they have included a Nazi in the midst? Should they when they were being called vermin, when they were being called subhuman, was it okay for just Jews to talk about that?
Yeah, the black people aren't Nazis in this example, though. They're not. Like,
I think Kendi's pretty close.
No, I don't think it's black people. I think it's the people.
No, of course not.
With the messaging.
You don't think
So Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi are the same on this.
They are creating special classes of humans. They are creating depraved classes of humans. It is intolerable in my view. It is thoroughly unchristian, and I don't give a crap what they have to say.
and I panic when they get in front of like when the academia impacts journalism, impacts Congress, right? That pipeline scares the heck out of me. And when this stuff starts to actually impact legislation, that scares the heck out of me.
You don't think it does?
It
You don't
does,
think it is?
and,
Okay.
and I'll talk about that. But if they're saying it, like if the academia if student loans were allowed like to bankrupt themselves and they actually had to give degrees on things that would turn a profit, we wouldn't be seeing any of this.
Here's my
Perhaps.
concern.
Unless you're
If-
like a history major, in which case, cool, study it. But
Okay,
like,
but I asked a question. I don't know if Scott.
Ju-
I'm being
yeah, sorry.
provocative. So if
Yeah.
you think that's an unfair rhetorical question, that's fine. But
I think comparing anything other than maybe Hamas to Nazi Germany is a little uncharitable.
what's the law?
Yeah, wait,
whoever you bring
how
the
long it
Nazis
takes to
first,
get
you
to
win.
Hitler.
Yeah, but my point is they are talking about whites as though they are subhumans. That they are a scourge on the population, and the only way to fix this problem is
But you just said they're not talking about white people; they're talking about whiteness.
exactly, and that's even more
So-
of a problem because now you can lump in anybody into it. That's how revolutions work. One day it's the kulaks, and the next day, we have to include all these other people because we still don't have equity.
Every Jew in New York City who goes on the subway and passes by the Black Hebrew Israelites screaming about how like you know Jews are terrible, they don't care, right? That's kind of how I view Nicole Hannah Jones. Now, like if these people or Ibram X. Kendi, now if these people like start to actually impact legislation that says.
You make a good point, Ken, because I don't care. I can sort of laugh at it and be like, this is so silly. And by the way, it doesn't just have to be a race. We could talk about everybody in this room is heteronormative, right? I mean, y'all are all married to women and, I would like to be married to a man.
Person here. So.
Scotty's differently abled because he has a bum foot.
Just for a couple weeks.
But if we were having the conversation on that front, I think that it stands that sure, we might sort of laugh at that. Like, okay, Ibram X. Kendi is kind of he honestly is kind of a joke, but it's not funny when it starts to like make the next generation actually believe. And by the way, let me say this one last thing.
Okay.
When I'm not getting into the whole Israel-Palestine thing, except just this little note to say, Palestinians have been listening to propaganda for decades about Jews being not real people. They're disgusting. The children joke in their literature and in their plays and stuff about killing Jews because they've been taught they're not real people. That I know we are not there yet, but this is the beginning, like hints of that, and that is why I think we should talk about it. And yes, I also agree if we had a person of color here, that would be amazing because it would almost give more veracity to it, but I don't think it's necessary.
I think the most powerful witness to a world that wants to divide us across every kind of line is to get every kind of person together
Sure.
and under the banner of Jesus and present that forward.
Sure.
And the more we can do that, that's what I'm going to advocate for every time.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to you guys and to you, there's got to be a level of who cares that comes with that. Where it's like, who cares?
Well, I just told you
is
who
not
cares.
which a lot of our black brothers and sisters are not going to want to hear, right? And we got to listen to them and got to be like sympathetic because they do get stopped by police more just for driving, right? There's stuff like the grievances you mentioned are real. However, right, we got to also not care about the Black Hebrew Israelites screaming outside the subway station in New York.
I think
yeah.
we're seeing a rise in anyway. I think that language like Kindi is going to filter down to the average person as being heard as white people by virtue of being white are the problem, and they're the reason that I don't have what I want, or I don't have opportunities in education, et cetera, et cetera. That is not a good thing. It is not a Christian thing. I give this whole privilege thing. We should not even be using that language. No, we should not, because you go down that road. Okay, you're going to get into the intersectional nightmare. Okay, you're gonna be left with the
wait. So when I get pulled over, I'm literally not afraid at all that I'm going to get shot. That's not a privilege that I have over the average.
I don't
black
think what
man.
you're saying. It's not that privilege doesn't exist.
Okay,
I'm not saying.
I just want to clarify.
Okay. Does it?
I hate being in the middle because I'm gonna push back on you and say like, the talk that like black parents have with their kids, is that a little bit exaggerated? Yes, cops are not out there hunting black people the way that somebody like Ibram X. Kennedy would say.
But if you watch the video of what happened to,
I agree.
Philando Castile and
Philando Castile, why was he not the George Floyd?
I'm just saying,
Second Amendment.
You cannot watch that video.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Of the man doing everything my father taught me to do when approached by a cop, shot in the chest in his own vehicle, and say, I have a privilege he does not have. And it's just true.
Well, there have been white people who've been shot.
Yeah, that's what I was about to come back with.
It's the police state is the problem. Okay, does a black child who has a mother and father in the home, is he more privileged than a black child with a single family, say a single mother at home only?
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
Obviously.
And is a black girl who has is a black boy who has a single mother more privileged than a black girl who only has a single mother?
Yes.
Your point about intersectionality is taken.
Great.
Right,
okay.
right.
So
for the sake of the audience, let him finish it.
Well, no, we can go on down the line. If that girl's a lesbian, she's less privileged. If that girl's trans, she's less. If she's neurodivergent, she's less. Privilege is a reality of life. Okay, we live in a fallen world where there is inequality, and yes, as Christians, I think we have a duty to try to overcome those inequalities.
Yes.
But the language of privilege is the language of neo-Marxism. It's the language of cultural Marxism. It's the language of equity. It is not Christian language. Because at the end of the day, you are going to create humans of value and subhumans. And that is what Kindi does. And it is intolerable. And we would be foolish to accept it. Let me give one quick stat. Then I'll be quiet.
Stat.
The year after Black Lives Matter protests, the S&P 100 added more than 300,000 jobs. 94% went to people of color. Okay, so in other words,
94%. Dang.
So that's from Bloomberg. That's from Bloomberg.
I'm gonna double check that after we're done.
It's from Bloomberg. It's from Bloomberg. So that was this year, September 25, 2023. So you said, "Oh, I'm not going to worry about it until they pass legislation." Where I'm telling you that if your son or daughter wants to go into the corporate world and they're white, they're going to be disadvantaged if those numbers mean anything at all. Because corporations, they don't want to be attacked by the pressure police. They don't want to be called racist or whatever. I don't think any of it is right.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, go out and get a trade job. Everyone listening, if you're like thinking about going to college, electrician, plumber.
Okay, so more angels in the yard, be a plumber.
Yeah,
those are the takeaways.
They're not going to have DEI requirements.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying.
So just help me real quick. I'm using the word because it's the word I know. If I'm trying to acknowledge my privilege as a white person over black people I know, but using the word privilege is Marxist and not Christian, what word should I use?
I think he's saying the concept, not the word.
No, but
how should I speak to that reality which you acknowledged is a reality?
Well,
as
if I give you
Christian?
another word, like say the word advantage, then I would say, okay, let me ask this though. How many white people say that they're people of color on college applications?
I don't know.
It's a lot more than, I mean, do any black people say that they're white when they fill out college applications?
I honestly didn't know it went either way.
Well, it definitely goes in one direction, right? Because it's an advantage to be a person of color to get into college. It's not an advantage to be white. So, so I don't know. I just think that, maybe, yeah. Do I have some privileges?
However,
But we're also trying.
resumes with black sounding names do get rejected.
Yeah.
Ceteris paribus. Other things equal.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
Yes.
Nothing is, either A or B.
Correct.
Right. You have examples.
I think
studies.
the problem with the Kindies of the world, though, is they want systemic changes, and I don't think systemic changes are easy to ferret out. Right. I think that as Christians, in the ways and places we have influence and opportunity, we need to be colorblind. We need to be loving. We need to. I'm fine on a personal basis to recognize my privilege and be humble and give other people opportunities if I even have them to give, which I don't know that I do. But so it's not the Christian character of how we ought to live. It's the implementation of this on a mass scale, which is necessarily going to dehumanize people. There's just no other way. The language of whiteness as a concept is going to put people, by virtue of their being white, in a position of being the Nazis who have to be eradicated, or something like that.
The prophets always seem very concerned with the national sins and the systems more than the individuals.
Ooh.
Just my observation of the Old Testament.
That is absolutely 110% true.
Yeah.
110% doesn't exist.
Well,
Much like the
Like
construction of
Israel
whiteness.
sinned.
Amos, Micah.
Well, I mean,
There were good people in Israel when it got conquered
Yeah.
by the king of Tyre.
Yeah. I'm concerned about the national sin of abortion. Sure. I'm concerned about the national sin of slavery. I mean, so I'm with you. Like, yeah. Okay.
So to white pill this out, and it's funny because I actually wasn't going to get into all of the
And we did.
weeds of it, which poor Scotty is probably like, this was the trick all along. But I just thought that our conversation earlier was interesting and people might want to peek into it. But I think we can all agree, I hope we can all agree, that anytime you have a phrase like whiteness is bad, or blackness, or Jewishness, or anything
it's cringe.
that takes, it's beyond cringe, it's evil. And so I think where I agree with you, Scotty, and this is the sort of white pill, is that the more that we can get a diversity of voices across all of the lines, and it's not just about race, it's about class,
Correct.
it's about a million things.
Correct.
To agree that what the world needs is Christ. That's awesome. And this is a little bit of a shameless plug for Theology by the Pint, because this is kind of what we try to do here, right? And not necessarily with race, depending on the conversation or sexuality or whatever, but just to have differing opinions coming together like we are in this room, right? We have pretty different opinions. And loving each other and having charitable disagreement about it so we can really explore these things and hopefully let Christ shine.
Set the table for everybody.
Yeah.
And let's listen to people who don't look like us.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm going to advocate for always.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Well,
None of y'all look like me. I'm the only girl here, and I feel
Yeah.
really oppressed if I'm honest.
the
joking.
last one we're just not going to have time for.
No, for real?
But, well,
Push it a
yeah,
bit
I guess-
longer. No?
I'm hanging.
okay. Well, okay.
This one's the most important one.
I'm-
It's our
I'm
fault we
game.
saved it. It's
All
our
right.
fault we saved it for
I'm
last.
game.
Okay, what I'm going to try to do is play this video from this hearing this week. It's about it's you may have already seen it. It's the three presidents of MIT and Penn
Harvard.
and Harvard, and they're asked by Elisa Stefanik, who is Jewish, about some of the pro-Palestinian
Pro-Palestinian.
rallies going on at their campuses where chants of infidata and from the river to the sea, etc. These are problematic. So I'm going to try to play it. I think it will make us be hopefully it's going to go through the software. If not, I'm going to have to edit it later. So we'll see how it
We'll be
goes.
quiet just in case.
All right.
Madam Chair, I'd like to yield the balance of my time to the gentlewoman from New York.
Dr. Kornbluth, at MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking, specifically calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
Yes
speech
or no?
becomes if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, targeted at an individual.
It's targeted at
pervasive.
Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric. When
And is it
crosses into
anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
There's so many of us
It's
in the
like
room just
listening to every White House press secretary.
Yes. I just want to be
Yeah.
clear.
So bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's so bad.
But what's interesting is like, so basically if someone goes up to someone and wags their finger in their face and says, you should die, it's almost like they're saying that's okay until you kill them. Then now it's bullying.
Well,
or
no.
something.
She said if it's targeted at an individual, it's bullying.
Yeah.
So if I walked up to you as an individual, you should die. That's bullying.
Yeah.
But to say
all of
the
them.
Jewish people should be eradicated or genocide, whatever, like that is not.
And by the way, they have like since this was like 2 days ago, they've all like walked us back and put out
Of course.
statements.
That's what I said about the
But they
press
had
because
so many
secretary.
chances to
they've
walk
been
it back
raked
then.
over the coals. Yeah.
But how did they not know? They got asked like 16 times. And then she said, this is for the world
She
to
tried
see.
so hard to give them
I
an
know.
out.
Because every one of their humanities professors is the ones at the rallies going globalize
Right.
the Intifada or from the river to the sea, right? I mean, and those are the
It's
two
the
phrases
same-
that we're talking
Yeah.
about
It's-
here.
yeah.
Intifada and river to sea.
Yeah.
But as we've talked about in previous episodes where we've covered this, I think, fairly extensively, it's the same oppressed-oppressor dynamic where you have a privileged class, the oppressed are the privileged class because that's the only way to get to equity, right? You have to tear down one group so the other group can be built up, and that's how this is justified.
Well, and let's just say this too, because I know we could have a whole conversation in another episode about freedom of speech, what people are and aren't allowed to say. But these are the same schools that have really stringent codes of speech.
Yeah.
Right.
So much so that if you use someone's wrong pronouns, like that can be cause for action,
Yeah.
actionable, whatever
sure.
it was they
Well,
said.
wasn't this the same Harvard that also on the oppressed oppressor thing, like was limiting the number of Asian students that could get in?
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. The only reason they're in front of Congress is, well, there's two reasons. One, it's the student loan thing, right? Student loans are inevitably tied. If they were allowed to fail on their own, nobody would be getting these degrees, and these humanities professors would have to go get a job at Starbucks.
Who is allowed to fail on its own? The student
The
or the
loan.
The
institution?
schools. Like, yeah, it's
What do you
because,
mean? Harvard has a $60 billion endowment.
well, okay.
I don't even know why they get student loans.
You might be with me. Let's take and this is an idea from Michael
What are you,
Mellis.
like, building teams or something?
Let's take the endowments
Yeah.
and give them out as reparations. I can be down with that. University endowments as reparations.
I think
I haven't thought about that before.
let's use them.
I think that
Let's use them
it's
to
an
pay back the
intriguing
student
idea.
loans.
But there's also the student loan moral hazard issue that I'm talking about, which is like if you can't bankrupt on student loans, then like colleges are going to give
You're
them,
not beholden.
and then 10 years down the road, maybe Biden bails you out for another 10,000 of it. It's crazy.
It's cute that you think Biden will be around for 10 more
No,
years.
no. I'm saying the
Okay.
student loans that were taken out 10 years
I
ago
get
got
it.
bailed out by.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And now people are looking like that can't even spell moral hazard, are looking at their student loans like, I might be able to get these forgiven, right?
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
other thing is the Civil Rights Act, which, I mean, like unintended consequences.
I don't know. I just think it's wrong to. I just think it's wrong for groups of people on college campuses to say that Jews should die. Right?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. And it seems like that should be something that would cause you to expel students.
Play devil's advocate again.
Oh, wow. Okay, here we go.
That was happening in Sydney, Australia. Like, there is a difference between saying globalized intifada and saying kill all Jews, right? They may
I don't know.
mean the same
Is
thing,
that-
but there's a difference in saying it. Because if we were having a conversation about someone saying kill all Jews, right, we wouldn't have that one video from Sydney, Australia, which stuck out like a sore thumb more than the rest of them. There's a spectrum of offensive speech.
I don't know. There's Jewish students who are pretty afraid to be on campuses.
No,
right
I
now.
agree. I agree.
Yeah. So,
And it's not like these are, I mean, even here in America, we've had many, many, many cases of actual, like, I want to rape the Jewish girls. I want to kill the Jewish guys. I want to
Per
slice
capita,
them up. I mean,
yeah.
it's,
Per capita, anti-Jewish hate crime is higher than any other hate crime.
okay, so
by
it's
far.
not just, quote, just Intifada and From the River to the Sea, which are code for the elimination of Jews.
It is code for, but what I'm saying is if you had someone actually saying gas the Jews, like they were in Sydney, we'd be hearing about it, right? These are sneaky, I'm not touching you ways of saying that. And
Okay.
there's a difference, but like it's still disgusting.
Okay, I still maintain
Yeah.
that if you're on a campus where you can misgender someone and get in trouble for it, maybe don't say From the River to the Sea. I don't know. That just seems
It's
consistent.
I would, on the one hand, it's hypocrisy. On the other hand, it's the oppressor dynamic. They're privileged. If you're gay, you're a privileged class. If you're black, you're a privileged class. If you're Palestinian, you're a privileged class. These are, am I wrong?
Well,
there are
clearly
privileged
not.
classes.
They
They're
were
privileged
before-
sins, I would say. They're privileged classes.
Well, they had to walk it back, right?
They what?
They had to walk it back.
and they're and
And then we
big
did see
donors
these
are like,
idiot kids like not getting their job offers rescinded. So like there's some justice in the world, right? They weren't the oppressed, or now they are. I don't know. I don't know.
It's hard.
Yeah.
We need a whiteboard for it.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Yeah.
chalkboard. You were oppressed,
Well,
but now you're not.
Okay, I think we're out of words. Okay, let's go around and say where people can find you. Ken, where can people find you?
I might be back.
He's
here
off the
again.
grid.
I don't know.
Yeah. Theology on Tap event.
Oh
Theology
my
on Tap by the
gosh.
pint. Oh my
Theology
god!
by the pint.
by
I'm
the
so
pint.
embarrassed. I know I was going to do it a few times.
Yeah.
A couple mulligans on that.
Give us
Okay.
a couple months and we'll be good.
All right.
Well, this episode is going to come out soon. So
Yeah.
you can come December 12th, this coming Tuesday, to hear us do some more charitable disagreement around gender. So we're going to be talking about men and women, what women can and can't or should and shouldn't do in church. It's
This
gonna
is a
be-
great segue.
Okay. I think so too.
Hey, if you're a Baptist and you think women can lead in the church in all the ways men can, come hang out at Sugarland Baptist Church. We love you. We'd love to see you.
What if they don't
wait a
think
minute.
that? Can they
Wait.
still come
They
to your
can
church?
absolutely still come. We have those folks at our church.
Do
and
they
we
let
love
you
them very
drink
much.
at Theology by the Pint?
They do.
Oh,
We are not
These are cool Baptists.
those kind of Baptists.
Right.
But here's my real pitch.
Yeah.
I'm a student pastor, and I've got some students that wrote Advent devotionals, and one student and I are hosting a podcast every day through Advent, reading these. It's 5 to 8 minutes per morning. If you want to start your day with some Advent devotional thought, I'm very proud of these high school and middle school students. You can look up Waiting in Remembrance. Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. Would love-
Waiting in Remembrance.
Waiting in Remembrance podcast. Sugarland Students is the author of that, and I would love for you to listen to some of our high schoolers and middle schoolers devotionals this Advent.
Neato.
That's great.
I didn't know that Baptists knew what Advent was. So
Oh my gosh.
Again, Evan, we are not those
those
Baptists.
Baptists.
I just didn't know how you fit into. I don't know. I'm not going to.
The
They're a couple
liturgical
months
calendar.
away from being non-denominational. So
No.
Yeah.
Never,
funny.
never.
Okay, but Sugarland Baptist.
Sugarland Baptist,
Cool.
yes.
All right. And
You could find me at all of the Theology by the Pint, everything. Theology by the Pint events, theologybythepint.org, .com, .net. Yeah, theologybythepint@gmail.com if you want to send hate mail, but I prefer you just send that directly to Evan.
Yeah, I'll take it. And I'm Evan at First Lutheran, flhouston.org. You can find me there. So
We're preaching every Sunday morning.
yeah,
Yeah.
every morning, every Sunday morning. Yes. Anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time, we encourage you to question freely, think deeply, and disagree as needed.